Hi, everyone. This is Frank with Teaching University. And in this lecture today, we're going to be going over Wallace D. Wallace's book, The Science of Getting Rich, and Napoleon Hill's work in the Think and Grow Rich, which is some of my favorite books that really discuss the concept of unlimited wealth and wealth creation and how to overcome this scarcity mindset that I think many of us have developed over the years in believing that money is scarce or that money is very difficult to obtain and that we have to suffer and enslave ourselves essentially in order to achieve vast amounts of wealth. And when I talk about wealth, I'm not just talking about the financial. Of course, we'll be diving into that a little bit in this lecture, but the wealth I'm talking about is wealth in our relationships, in our careers, in our health, and in other aspects of our lives which we wish to improve upon. So I want to start with a quote from Wallace D. Wattles in his book, The Science of Getting Rich, who says that the only service you can render God is to give expression to what he's trying to give the world through you. The only service you can render God is to make the very most of yourself in order that God may live in you to the utmost of your possibilities. And what I love about this quote by Wattles is that what he hints at is that we have this higher version of ourself. Or more specifically, we have these mental faculties, these abilities that we don't normally use. And when we surrender to infinite intelligence, to God, this higher self, we don't have to strain as much anymore because we surrender to this higher self to basically take over and allow it to express itself in various ways. But of course, this depends on what we impress upon this intelligence or this subconscious, which can be considered one and the same. So, this is why affirmations and suggestions, what we think about, what we say to ourselves within the womb of our own minds, can determine our destiny, and especially our financial destiny. But that when it comes to making the most of yourself, and I said this in quoting Abraham Maslow, or referencing Abraham Maslow and his hierarchy of needs, that the pinnacle of human experience is authentic creative expression. And when we are authentically creating ourselves or expressing ourselves, that's when we are becoming godlike, or we are expressing God through our behaviors and our personality and the energy that we unleash in the world and all the good that we can bring onto the world by using our gifts and abilities. And it's through our gifts and abilities that we can render products and services, we can get paid handsomely for our gifts. And that to make money and to create vast amounts of wealth does not require sacrifice, in that you can do what you love to do and get paid very well in doing it. So to add on to this concept of infinite intelligence, so once again, I'll quote Wattles, he says that there is a thinking stuff from which all things are made, and which in its original state permeates, penetrates, and fills the inner spaces of the universe. A thought in this substance produces the thing that is imagined by the thought. Man can form things in his thought, and by impressing his thought upon formless substance can cause the thing he thinks about to be created. In order to do this, man must pass from the competitive to the creative mind. Otherwise, he cannot be in harmony with a formless intelligence, which is always creative and never competitive in spirit. The word that stands out to me is the word competitive. The problem with competition is that more often than not, we are competing with ourselves. And when we try to affirm or use suggestion or affirmations through meditation or through journaling, etc., what happens is that we try to consciously force the desired outcome. We try to force it to happen consciously, or we take massive amounts of action where really the action is not in congruence with our instincts and what it is that we really should be doing, because we are ignoring this formless intelligence that can give us and reveal to us the answers necessary to solve many of our most complex problems, including as it relates to our finances. So to tap into this thinking stuff, we want to be in a relaxed state. What was life-changing for me was reading the book Creative Visualization by Shakti Gawain, where she talks about that through meditation and affirmations, we want to do this in a relaxed meditative state, and that whatever emotion comes about, just accept it for what it is. So to tap into this intelligence and to press upon the subconscious, which can express our true nature. We want to be in a relaxed state and assume the wish fulfilled, feeling as if the wish is fulfilled by using affirmations where we are in the present moment, where we can simply say, I am wealthy. Money comes effortlessly in many known and unknown ways. I have the ability to create financial abundance in my life. Or we can just focus on one word, say prosperity, and meditate on that. And there are a number of meanings that prosperity has to aspects of our lives when it comes to our finances, relationships, etc. So we want to be in a relaxed state and stop trying to force outcomes. When we try to force something, force negates, and we actually push away what it is that we desire. That's why being relaxed in a calm state, we can actually bring forth these new feelings and emotions of excitement and desire, ingredients that are necessary in order for us to change our financial destiny. So the more gratefully we fix our minds on the Supreme when the good things come to us, the more good things we will receive. And the more rapidly they will come. And the reason simply is that the mental attitude of gratitude draws the mind into closer touch with the source from which the blessings come. The source being infinite intelligence, God, energy, nature, the greater mind, whatever you want to call it. And this is a common theme that I've seen in so many books, from Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, The Science of Getting Rich, The Power of the Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy, Maxwell Maltz's Psycho-Cybernetics, and of course other books, especially written well before any of us were born, that discuss this greater mind. And we must fixate our minds onto this higher intelligence. And we do this simply by being aware of this intelligence and be grateful, not only for this intelligence and this love, but also for what it is that we do have. And that there isn't necessarily good or bad emotions. But for the purposes of this lecture, if we ever experience negative emotions, we should not try to fight them off, but accept them for what they are. Accept that you're feeling nervous, frustrated, anxious, etc. And when we do that, we no longer give any power to these emotions. In fact, these emotions serve a purpose because they give us feedback as to what it is that we really want. If we're feeling a scarcity mindset, that we feel lack, that we really want is abundance and prosperity. If we're anxious, we want peace of mind and courage. There's always a polar opposite. So that's why it's important to pay attention to our negative emotions. And by doing so, then, it becomes much easier to impress upon the subconscious and this intelligence suggestions that move us to where we want to go and increase prosperity and abundance in all aspects of our lives. So Waddell says that wisdom is dependent upon knowledge. Where there is complete ignorance, there could be no wisdom, no knowledge of the right thing to do. Man's knowledge is comparatively limited, and so is his wisdom must be small, unless he can connect his mind with a knowledge greater than his own and draw from it. By inspiration, the wisdom that his own limitations deny him. Only God knows all truth. Therefore, only God can have real wisdom or know the right thing to do at all times. And man can receive wisdom from God. Wisdom is obtained by reading the mind of God. So when we think about knowledge, we think about the information that we learn in school, in courses, and certainly listening to lectures like this. But real knowledge is paying attention to our instincts, paying attention to this greater mind, this greater consciousness, and surrendering to it, and being aware enough to listen to our intuition and the answers that come to us that can help guide us, this unseen hand, guide us into better circumstances, especially when it comes to our finances. And using empowering suggestions in a relaxed state by not trying to force an outcome, this greater mind can reveal to us the wisdom necessary that can help us transcend and overcome whatever is challenging us. So, of course, knowledge that we learn in school, knowledge on entrepreneurship, finances, investing, marketing, sales, that's all important. But ultimately, it starts with this greater mind and following your instincts and listening to yourself. And Have you ever noticed that there are individuals that and perhaps we know people like this, who maybe don't have a college degree, they're not educated in the traditional sense, but they have this it factor. They have the ability to generate massive amounts of wealth. How many people do we know or heard of that have been able to generate lots of money, lots of wealth, and don't have the traditional forms of education that many of us have? But yet they've been able to obtain vast amounts of wealth because ultimately they know something. They think a certain way, as Wallace D. Wattles says throughout the book, The Science of Getting Rich. It's not that necessarily they work harder than anything else. If you recall, and I've said this in my other lectures, in quoting Think and Grow Rich, where Napoleon Hill says, "Do you think acquiring great amounts of wealth requires hard work alone? Perish the thought." It's not about working harder, but rather it is thinking in a certain way that produces certain results. And when we think a certain way, when we become aware of this intelligence and impress upon it what we desire and communicate with it, things begin to happen in unknown ways. New opportunities, business relationships, new experiences occur. And I've had this happen to me in my own life where once I started to put myself in a relaxed state and not try to force outcomes, and through autosuggestion and through affirmations and through meditation and journaling, focus on what it is I want, assume the wish fulfilled, and live my life, things all of a sudden start to happen. They don't necessarily happen in your time frame. Life is not as linear as we would like for it to be, but they do happen eventually over time. And if one of our goals does not necessarily happen, then more than likely something else will occur that is even better. Life reveals itself to you in many known and unknown ways. So now to quote Napoleon Hill, he says the starting point of all achievement is desire. Keep this constantly in mind. Weak desire brings weak results, just as a small fire makes a small amount of heat. Desire is a necessary ingredient. And to cultivate desire, we actually, and of course, we want to cultivate positive emotions, but as I said before, we want to listen to our negative emotions. If we are experiencing frustration, anxiety, fear, etc., this is simply feedback that our higher self is telling us as far as what it is that we really desire. We need to want something in order to achieve it. If we're going to be indifferent and be unsure of what it is that we want, then we will not be able to improve our finances or any other aspect of our lives. So desire is an important ingredient. And desire then, as I said before, is cultivating in your mind affirmations that assume the wish is fulfilled. Imagine if what you want is already in the present moment. Imagine the certain amount of money and wealth that you've always wanted is already been achieved. How would that feel? Desire it and feel the wish fulfilled. And by putting yourself in a relaxed state, entertaining these different emotions, not trying to force it, you may not necessarily achieve that desired emotion right away. But over time, as you do this, you feel a lot lighter. And this has happened to me in my meditative practices, where I feel a sense of lightness. I feel whole and complete. And I feel less strain and stress because I know and have developed faith that what I want will be brought forth into my life in one way, shape, or form. And sometimes to cultivate desire, we have to acknowledge where it is that we are. If we're struggling with our finances, we're in debt, and where situations are undesirable, we can't ignore it. We have to acknowledge that. But once we acknowledge where we don't want to be, that creates then the desire and the rocket fuel to get us where we want to go. So a little bit of dissatisfaction is healthy because it helps ignite this desire that takes us where we want to go. So Hill says that an educated man is not necessarily one who has an abundance of general or specialized knowledge. An educated man is one who has so developed the faculties of his mind that he may acquire anything he wants, or its equivalent without violating the rights of others. As I said before, that wealthy individuals are those that don't necessarily have the traditional education that many people have, but they think in a certain way. They know something. They think in ways that most people don't do. They focus on what they want. And most importantly, they don't act like victims. They don't feel like they're victims of circumstance. They make the circumstances they desire. This is something that Earl Nightingale talks about in The Strangest Secret. If individuals are not in desirable circumstances, they make them. And that is what successful individuals do. If they're in undesirable circumstances, they change them. And it starts with how they think, thinking in a certain way that brings them anything that they desire without strain or frustration or fear. They walk in faith knowing that what they want will come into their life in one way or the other. Maybe not necessarily right on their time frame, but it will happen. And that is true education. It is thinking in this way, thinking the wish fulfilled, thinking that what you assume or what you want wants you, and creation is already done. And this is incredibly exhilarating when we entertain these ideas that if we simply put ourselves in this relaxed state and just take the time to focus on these assumptions, these affirmations of abundance and financial prosperity, thinking about what it is that you want, whether it's for material possessions, so the kind of money you want to have, the services you want to provide to earn this money. We repeat these affirmations to ourselves enough times in this relaxed state, our mind begins to change, and so does our outer environment. We begin to see things in new ways, and we see opportunities we never even saw or realized before. And all of a sudden, life begins to change, sometimes slowly, but sometimes rather rapidly, where all of a sudden money just falls, comes out of nowhere. And Hill talks about this in Think and Grow Rich, where money can come to you in very large quantities without you even realizing it before, realizing these opportunities existed before, which again is incredibly exhilarating. So there is a difference between wishing for a thing and being ready to receive it. No one is ready for a thing until he believes he can acquire it. The state of mind must be belief, not mere hope or wish. Open-mindedness is essential for belief. As I said, desire is a necessary component. Simply wishing for something to happen. When you wish for something, I believe it's really when you're indifferent as to whether or not this goal or possession or whatever it is that you want or desire happens. You have to be ready to receive it. When you're ready to receive it, as Neville says, it's feeling the wish fulfilled. Assuming that what you want wants you and that already you have or you possess what you desire. And when you cultivate this power of belief, you utilize your imagination to imagine new vistas and new horizons. Thus, the importance of visualization, where you put yourself in this relaxed state and visualize and see a desired result in whatever shape or form or goal that may be. And not trying to force it. And if you can't necessarily see it right away, if you can't picture it with so much detail, that's okay. If you don't necessarily know what you want specifically, that is okay. Simply focusing on words like prosperity, abundance, love, financial independence, focusing on those words and their many meanings to your life can dramatically transform your life in many ways that can truly astound you. So a genius then is simply one who has taken full possession of his own mind and directed it toward objectives of his own choosing without permitting outside influences to discourage or mislead him. We discussed before how there are those who don't necessarily have the traditional forms of education, who may not have gotten the best grades in school and so forth, but yet they've been able to achieve vast amounts of success and wealth. So when we think of a genius isn't somebody simply who maybe creates great works of art or is a genius in academia or in the sciences, but rather a genius is somebody who has the ability to control and direct his mind and to create desired results without allowing his or her outside circumstances to deter him or her from his vision. And this is the hard part. This process does require work, because the hard work is not letting your outside environment from discouraging you from pursuing your vision, because there'll be times when there's nothing outside your environment to validate that what you want is possible. But by feeling the wish fulfilled and by paying attention and focusing and by continuing to do the work, it will pay off in dividends in ways that you never even imagined. And that is real genius, is when you take control of your own mind. Because what ends up happening, and it's happened to me, we end up being on autopilot where we simply react to what happens outside of us. We react to our circumstances rather than thinking about and being intentional with how we want to live and deciding that this is the way I want to live my life. I want to make a certain amount of money. I want to have a certain career, doing what I love to do, getting paid for what I'm good at and what I enjoy, and surrounding myself with people and relationships that make me feel inspired and make me feel good. Traveling where I want to go, owning the things I would like to have, helping others, taking full possession of not just your own mind, but your own life. And that is real freedom, where we no longer are enslaved by what happens to us in our external environment. So remember that your dominating thoughts attract through a definite law of nature by the shortest and most convenient route, their physical counterpart. Be careful what your thoughts dwell upon. And this actually happened to me recently where I began focusing on and practicing this process of meditation in a relaxed state, where I kept repeating affirmations of abundance that money would come to me in effortless and unknown and known ways. And during working at a major university here in Florida, I got the opportunity to work on a project, writing a business plan for a nonprofit where I'm going to be able to get paid for writing this business plan, a very nice sum of money. Which this happened to me, this pretty much fell in my lap practically. I remember my boss literally approaching me with this offer, which just came totally unexpectedly to me. These are the kind of experiences and synchronicities that I'm talking about. That there is a cause and effect, that the way you think can influence your life in its physical counterpart. So if you're focusing on negative thoughts and circumstances, then you'll continue repeatedly to experience the same negative circumstances day in and day out, where you are constantly straining and struggling to achieve what it is that you want. So what you consistently think about will manifest itself in some way in your physical counterpart or your external reality. That's why, again, this is hard work. It requires that we take the time to not try to force outcomes or force our thoughts, but to accept them for what they are. If we're feeling frustrated one day, accept that you're frustrated. Don't try to fight this. Our instinct is to fight whatever negative emotions we experience, and that's the last thing you want to do. Don't fight these emotions, listen to them. And that is how we can master our mind and our circumstances, is through the path of least resistance. When we cut through the fog and get to what it is that we really want, then things begin to happen where life and the universe begin to move mountains to get us what it is that we would like. So close friends and relatives, while not meaning to do so, often handicap one through opinions and sometimes through ridicule, which is meant to be humorous. Thousands of men and women carry inferiority complexes with them all through life because some well-meaning but ignorant person destroyed their confidence through opinions or ridicule. So this is a good practice. Whatever goals we do have, whatever it is we want to accomplish, we want to be very diligent and selective with who it is we share our goals with and our dreams. Because what can be destroyed our dreams is where we share this with our goals with somebody who is ignorant and who tries to destroy our confidence or ridicule us for what it is that we wish to accomplish. So we want to be very selective with who it is that we share our dreams and desires with. That's why Hill discusses the importance of having a mastermind group. You could have a physical mastermind group where you have literally people, mentors, friends that you confide in to share this important information with, that can help guide you in the right direction. Or this mastermind group could be imaginary within your own mind. You can imagine your mastermind group being people that you admire, from people that are alive or who are no longer with us, and asking them what it is that they would do in this particular situation or how to get out of a particular circumstance. So be very selective with who it is you share your goals and your dreams with. So this is a 6-step process that Napoleon Hill lays out that I think could really help us then move us in the direction of achieving our financial goals in one way, shape, or form. It has to fix in your own mind the exact amount of money you desire. It is not sufficient merely to say, I want plenty of money. Be definite as to the amount. There is a physiological reason for definitiveness, which will be described in a subsequent chapter. Determine exactly what you intend to give in return for the money you desire. There's no such reality as something for nothing. Establish a definite date when you intend to possess the money you desire. Create a definite plan for carrying out your desire and begin at once, whether you are ready or not, to put this plan into action. Step 5 then is to write out a clear, concise statement of the amount of money you intend to acquire. Name the time limit for its acquisition. State what you intend to give in return for the money, and describe clearly the plan through which you intend to accumulate it. Read your written statement out loud twice daily, once just before retiring at night, and once after rising in the morning. As you read and see and feel and believe yourself already in possession of the money, this exercise is incredibly powerful because what you're doing is like an artist or a painter. You are painting a picture of what your desirable financial circumstances are. The exact amount of money you would like to earn, how you earn that money, what kind of career and job you're going to have to earn this money, when this is going to happen, how you're going to feel if by when you do earn this vast amount of wealth, and so forth. You're painting a picture, and you're using feeling and emotion to feel and believe as if what you want is already here now, that you're already in possession of that money. And by doing this exercise in a relaxed state, and if you do this exercise and you feel doubt and a lack of confidence, that's okay. Accept that you're feeling this way. Continue this exercise, because eventually it will feel second nature that when you do this enough times, you can literally begin to taste the sweetness of life, the sweetness of that what you want is possible. You taste the sweetness of possibility and new experiences that you never realized before. And that is incredibly exciting. But we want to be clear about what it is that we want and to think big in this exercise. If your goal is to be a millionaire, state the specific amount of money you want. Maybe you want to earn 20, 30, 40, $50 million. It's up to you to decide what is realistic or not, but we want to think big dreams. Because if our goals are very small, especially when it pertains to our finances, we're not going to be inspired to pursue them. So think big when it comes to your finances. Be clear about what it is that you want. Be concise. And in doing so, and tapping into this universal intelligence, and by being mindful of what it is that you think about and focusing on the good, life will naturally or reveal itself to you in many astounding ways where you achieve wealth, not just financially, but in all areas of your life. So thank you so much for listening to this lecture. I'll see you next time. Take care.